hear me without this well? In the back, side, yeah, it works. No mic? No mic. All right, just
for
in case.
myself because I can't shout like you.
All right. Cool. My name is Mustefa Joshan. I operate a company called Design Cofounders. We provide design services to startups and organizations. We do design education. We run community groups and support community events as well. Lailee?
Hi, I'm Lailee. I'm a designer in residence with Design Cofounders. I also lead internal research and development projects.
And so today we're going to go bouncing back and forth. So we have 4 interesting parts of a topic that we're going to talk about. And the gist of it is unifying product, business, design, and development. And this is like teams that work together. So I'm just going to jump right into it, and you guys will catch the flow as we go along. So one of the most challenging aspects that we found for building products is the iteration processes for like individuals and teams. So you know how you have your own process of doing a project or doing design or development or biz dev or whatever it is. You're constantly improving your own process, then your individual team is constantly improving its team, and it ladders up to the company. That's kind of hard to do, right? So right now, your team and even our team, let's zoom this in, yes. Your team looks something like this. And I'm Tyrion, because I think he lives in the end. From a development and design perspective, it's key to nail down processes to create efficient teams. And that's one thing on design and development teams that are trying to work together really well, but let alone when you incorporate business and product owners, business development, even investors and different people that could get into the process at a startup that's working together. And so things get tricky, and we think about collaboration, right, and how we're supposed to collaborate. And whenever you look at collaboration Venn diagrams and all that, they're always perfect, right? You got 3 perfect circles, and they're all different colors. So you got design here, development here, and product, and in the middle, like, magical collaboration happens. And it's supposed to look something like that, but it doesn't really. And how we really experience it is like a game of tower defense, where you have all of the different people in the different towers, and then you have problems like running through the different teams, and they're shooting at the problems and trying to solve them. And that's like collaborating from our own silos, even though the silos collaborate with each other. And so what we're doing when we do that is we're attacking the problem. But when you do that, and especially in tower defense, there's a chance that you'll actually kill the like little monsters that are running through the game. It's actually the goal of tower defense is to kill the monsters. So if we're attacking the problem like that from a tower defense and silo perspective, the monster could die. So I had that quote. Imagine if the problem that you're trying to solve is the monster. Then you'd end up with a whole lot of dead monsters or dead problems. And they're shot by different arrows, but in the same places and from all these different angles at completely different times in the process. So if you'll run with this metaphor, if you're solving a problem as a team, different people are contributing to it at different times, and they might be attacking the same points of a problem that's being solved. Whether it's a product problem, a business problem, or whatever decision that gets made. And then you kill the monster, but monsters are cute, so we have to stop hurting monsters. And so that's the main goal of the tower defense analogy. But our independent processes themselves, you know, when we work independently and shoot all those arrows every day, whether it's doing QA or making decisions on a feature for whatever reason, building our own processes isn't a bad thing. And we strengthen our own processes when we do that, and that's how they all get scaffolded, right? Because we're all unique and we bring different ideas and approaches to the table. So we have, you know, design and dev and product, and everybody's iterating their process as they go along, but everyone has their own approach to problem solving. We might use the term design thinking throughout this presentation. We really just mean problem solving or approaches to solving problems. And so everybody brings all these processes to the table. That is the table. If anybody ever asks about the table, just send them to this blog post. That's something of what it looks like. And it's a proverbial table that doesn't really exist, and you'll see why afterwards. So our focus at Design Cofounders, the company where I work, is that we started looking at things by by trying to alleviate risks for businesses, the business risks that our company faces and that clients face as well, through whatever processes that we use. Because the processes themselves aren't good enough, there has to be a goal for them, and alleviating business risk is a really, really big goal for us. And so how do we do that? And aside from the day-to-day, what I'm doing day-to-day, we use different tools. So what are the tools that we all use and love and adore? I threw Sublime in there, because Doug would have killed me. Doug is one of our devs if I didn't. We use Asana, we use Google Drive, Envision, Slack, and Sublime. And you'll notice that these things, they represent, these things represent different processes or different towers that are attacking a problem or different parts of the problem at any given time. So Asana is attacking product management, and Slack is communication. I had Gmail in there, but Slack killed it, right? But Gmail, all of these things are attacking processes or attacking problems in a different way through their built-in processes. Was there another point I wanted to make around that? Oh, just one quick example of a framework versus a process is that Google Drive, you open up a blank document, but in Google Drive, we could go ahead and create a template for a problem that we're going to solve together. For Asana, you could create a project template that you could share and that you could reuse, and that creates frameworks. And our processes might live independently across all of these tools, but our communication and alignment is unified through frameworks that we create with these tools and processes. And I'll hand it off to Lailee.
Okay, so why do we use frameworks? And I'm stuck.
Oh, you scroll the other way.
Oh, okay. Different on my computer.
It must be Windows.
No, it's just that I customized my trackpad, so
okay.
it's not natural. Okay, so why do we use these frameworks? There are 4 different reasons that I want to talk to you about, and I'm just going to go through them briefly, and then we'll look at details. So decisions that are backed up by facts and research or aren't communicated well are sometimes viewed as subjective. We've all experienced this. Number 2, we like labeling our process. This is design, this is research. Number 3, some of us are perfectionists, and it's hard to be a perfectionist. Number 4, we know what design thinking is, but do we really? So let's get into more details. I'm going to zoom in this image. So what is this? This is the design decision-making spectrum. You have the decision-maker dude, this point of the spectrum, and you have the decision buyer dude at the other end of the spectrum. The decision that the decision maker makes, let's call him Paul, is going to affect the decision buyer. Let's call him Tim. And this decision has been implemented by this dude here. Let's call him George. So if George doesn't know why he's doing something, how well do you think he can implement? Probably not very well. So if he doesn't do it very well, how happy do you think Tim will be? You'll end up with an unhappy user. That is why we create a framework for our projects. The second is to be able to answer the dilemma of the chicken or the egg. So what comes first? Is it research or is it design? You guys do research first and then do design, or do you do design and then research? And when does development get involved? Does it get involved before we do design or after we do design? So it's just like the same dilemma here with the chicken or the egg. We believe that neither should come first. It's an evolution. It's a process that should happen in the same environment. And it's an ongoing process. That's why we create a framework, to be able to support that process. So the third thing is to be able to treat perfectionism. So some of us are perfectionists, including myself, and some of us aren't. But yeah, so we do the lean projects and agile development, and it's all against perfectionism. But let's face it, you'll have a little bit of perfectionism in some of the things that we do. And it's really hard. It hurts us. It's difficult, it's torturing. Because nothing can ever be perfect. Because you can never know everything, and you want to know everything before you can share it or make progress. And that's an unnatural process because something is always missing. Someone always has something to say about how you could have done it better. So you dive in deep to research and learn as much as you can, and things just don't get done. So it's a trap, and it's unhealthy for you, it's unhealthy for the project, and you can never know everything. So this is why another reason that we create a framework, to be able to treat that trap or disease. The fourth reason, the last but not the least, is to be able to standardize design thinking. Like Mustefa was saying, design thinking really as problem solving. So how many of you have researched design, Googled design thinking? Just want to know a show of hands. 3 people, really? Okay, 4. Okay, so you've probably seen this image come up a lot of the times. There's something happening there, and there's something happening here, and then there's something there, and then there's a dot. So what is that? What does it mean? It's really representing that design thinking is a problem-solving evolution. But then there's a lot of drawings that look like that. It explains that your process has to be iterative. So you do something, you learn, you are ideating, then you prototype, you learn from your prototype, you ideate again and prototype. So it's a process that goes back and forth. This is what it's about, this diagram. But what does it really mean? How do we do this? How do companies do this? What is that one tool that everybody agrees on and says that this is the design thinking tool, like AutoCAD for architecture, or Photoshop and Illustrator for visual design? We don't have that one tool, so everybody ends up creating their own framework and methods and tools to be able to go through that process. So that's what we did with our framework. And so if I wanted to draw, if I wanted to draw our framework, which I did, that's what it will look like. So it's a problem-solving process. You enter at different points of this process. It might be when it's really complex, or it might be somewhere here. But you don't jump into solutions. You have something, you create a framework for a discussion, and you share it with your stakeholders, and from there you learn something new. And you do the same thing again, and you do the same thing again until you're happy with what you have. That's what our framework does. And the last thing is that we don't guess that dot at the very end. We try to discover the truth. We don't guess it. And I'm going to hand it off to Asana.
So going back, okay, that's cool. So, I mean, we have our own framework, and I'm pretty sure all of you use your own frameworks as well. We're going to share a framework with you in a minute. But like the real business success of our company, as well as our clients, is that the part that I said? No. So the business success of our company and our clients hinges on 2 things for us. It's always 2 things at the very end of the day. What is the opportunity that we want to seize, and what is the risk that we want to alleviate, right? And we have all of those processes to do all of those things that we talked about that land in Asana and all the tools that we use, etc., and Scrum and stand-ups and all that. And so processes are great, and I'm going to let you finish. But what have you done for me lately, right? So when you have all of these processes in place, so that was really weak because I thought that was a set of memes that deserved a super combo finish. It was really good. So the processes are great, but how do they actually move the business forward past the individual things that we're doing? So a stand-up, past just, how you go to a stand-up, here's what I did yesterday, here's what I'm going to do today, I don't have any blockers, next, right? That's such an isolated thing that hopefully when it all builds up, it moves the business forward. But when you think about processes around being able to seize opportunity, alleviate risk for an organization. It's more goal-driven and it's more mission-driven for a company. So our individual processes, really at the end of the day, instead of unifying around our own things that we're doing, they unify our team against goals, opportunities, and risks for the business. So before I had this super duper cool diagram, that guy that is a little bit unrealistic because perfection there doesn't happen in the middle. We have something that looks a little bit like this, where we're all aligned, product, business, dev, and design are all contributing to a conversation that's happening around organization goals, opportunities, and risks, and how we can seize the opportunities, alleviate the risks, so we can fulfill the organization's goals. And that's where, different members of the team join in to be able to do that at any given time. They should be able to contribute to that conversation. It's not about what I'm doing in biz dev today. It's not during stand-up I talk what I did during dev, or what I did in design, or how project management is going. It's really, we have stand-ups as just as an example that talk about how did we move the opportunities forward, alleviate the risks, and help us fulfill business goals today or yesterday. And so, even when we all do this, just generally, we workshop and ideas fly and ideas are so cool and they're flying in the air and like, that's a good idea, that's a good idea, that's great. And then we use Evernote. You might use Evernote, I don't use Evernote. Or you might have a Moleskin and you write in there. Or, you use whiteboards. We use whiteboards, we have whiteboard tables, it's great, and we draw stuff and we have conversations and then we take pictures of it and we post it on Twitter because amazing conversations happen. And I take tons of pictures, it's like half of my phone is pictures of whiteboards. But then we try our very, very best to translate those into those tools that we have, right? And they turn into actions that somebody needs to take, right? So if we have a list, we try our very best to translate that list of actions into Asana, or document it in Google Drive from the whiteboard picture that we took on our Nexus or on our iPhone. And this is great, right? This isn't saying that this is bad, because we do this ourselves. But what really, really happens at the end of the day, and the reason that we talk about frameworks, and the reason why we're going to show you an example of our framework that we're using, is because we get lost for the overall company's goal, gets lost in that day-to-day hustle from the specifics that we're looking at. And that scares us. It scares me. And it scares me for two reasons. It scares me from our team losing alignment day to day from their individual processes against the company's mission. And I'm scared of one thing, that's a single person being a hero and being the guiding North Star and the light for the company that carries whatever the business goals and mission goals are.
The decision maker dude?
The decision maker dude, right? We can't have that. Or just the decision buyer dude, right? The decision implementer, and we're all decision implementers across all hierarchies, but we can't leave that to one person. Why are we building X features? Well, because it helps us seize this opportunity, alleviate this risk, and move our business forward like that. Well, why do we need to start using this tool instead of that tool? Well, let me tell you something. It helps us alleviate this risk in our product for our users, right? And there's a lot of frameworks, right? I'm pretty sure we do this every day in different ways. What we found is when we put this all together and look at it in the same way as a team across business, product, design, and dev, it gives us a better framework to approach. So we've created a framework for why. So our framework provides an overview of how we could always be looking at opportunities and risks and how they're interconnected through not just the software development lifecycle, but through product lifecycle and business lifecycle. And it's really neat, and Lailee's going to show you an example of our framework.
Okay, so we call our framework the Design Kit. And I'm just going to show you what it looks like and how we use it. So this is the Design Kit. And it's very simple. We have a column, a framing column here, where we have the opportunity to align with our clients on expectations, project goals, and also include all the opportunities and risks that Mustefa was talking about, and also align on the objectives for the project. That's our opportunity to do that. And then we have this section over here where we are able to create a framework for our and how are we doing it? What are the decisions that we make and when do we make them? And how does that translate into a product? And just gonna go through all the sections here, one by one, and explain why we do everything that we do. So why do we frame the problem? How does it help us? Because the world is not our playground. It really isn't. The sandbox is. And by framing the problem, we are able to create that sandbox. And how do we do that? What does it mean, really? We write a project goal, and the project goal is really the sandbox. So that's where we align with our stakeholders on the project goal. And from there, we move on to creating a story. Why do we create a story? Because we want to understand who we are designing for. We're not just making up design, right? We have users and stakeholders, and we're creating this experience for them. So this is our chance to write about them and tell everybody in the team, from design to development to the business that we're designing for, who this person really is and what they care for.
To jump in, that's more than a user story. As Bob the builder, I'm blah blah. No, this is a full-fledged story or a scenario for someone.
Yes. And so after that, I'm just gonna explain a scenario that I'm sure most of us are familiar with when we're solving problems in a workshop that Mustefa was talking about, but without having a framework. So what does it really look like? A group of really smart people gather together and they start talking about a problem. There are some people that like jumping to solutions, and there's some people that like pointing out where we can't do certain things. And so what it creates is a lot of yes, buts, and no, ands, and it's just a mishmash of a conversation. And the best that one can do is to write down a minute for that meeting. And how does that minute get translated into the problem that we're solving, and how do we organize these thoughts? This is our opportunity to do that. And from there, you're able to inform objectives for our projects. And what does it really mean? What are the objectives? So if you think about the goal as this place that you want to be in, think about objectives as the milestones within the path that you have to take to reach the goal. And we create that and we inform it by going through the story, the goal, opportunities, and risks. After we frame the problem, we create a design challenge so that we can talk about the decisions that we need to make for the project. And we have the opportunity to talk about opportunities for the company and the risks to the goal from the users. And what does it really mean? We write it down as stories for the company and the user. What it really is what makes them happy. But why we frame them as risks for the user is because if it doesn't get achieved, and if it's not addressed for a user, it's a risk to a failure for the project. That's why we call them risks. And from there, we are able to transfer all that knowledge into actions. And what are actions? They're tangible things that we can do and the next steps for each milestone. So this is what I'm going to do. This actions is actually written for the design and development team, so that they know why they're doing something. They're the implementer dudes, and here is their chance to alleviate risk and seize opportunities. And from there, these actions are then translated into visual stories. The visual stories, in the case of a product design, could be early stages of wireframing. Or if you're just solving a design thinking problem, they're just visual stories to be able to visually tell what you're going to do next.
Like the doodles that Lailee created up.
My doodles. I love doing doodles. I do a lot of them. So but the important thing for us as a team is to remember that while we're creating this document, the document is a living document. It's never sealed. We share it. Remember that drawing? We share this document with the right people so that they can fill in the blanks. And then we can make the document better, so we update the document and we move forward until we're happy with the solution that we have.
What's really cool, if I could jump in from like the tower defense analogy that I gave and how everybody's moving towards solving the same problem, is that now when people jump in, we don't jump in for a bone to pick with the problem, but we can look at each stage. I mean, we have a bone to pick with the opportunities that we're looking to seize, or the risks, or maybe there are bigger risks that we didn't think about, or maybe we're talking about the actions, but we're always returning to the same overall doc, right? Whether it's you do it on a whiteboard and you leave that whiteboard alone for a while, or you write it on a piece of paper. It gives everybody a unified thing to return to.
Yeah. So moving forward, it's not always a product that you're designing. So we have problems versus wicked problems. And what does it really mean? It means that you have that dog versus this dog. So sometimes the problem is tangible and it's understandable. You know who your user is, and you know how to approach the problem because you understand it. And you know what your product might look like. If you know if it's going to be a digital app or if it's going to be a chair, like you have an idea of what your solution might be. You are going to iterate, sure, but you know what the product might be. But sometimes you have a wicked problem. What it means is that you don't really understand it. You don't know the cause of the problem, so you don't really know the real problem. It's like when you think about a disease, right? Sometimes you have symptoms. The real problem is not the symptom, it's the disease, right? But it's not easy to be able to diagnose it. So what we do with our framework, with our design kit, is that we adapt it so that we can facilitate these different problem-solving scenarios. And we encourage you to do the same, find a framework approach to solving problems and work more collaboratively. And that's the end of our talk.
We have like 30 seconds for one single question. Please. Yes.
So,
what's your name, sorry?
Danilo.
Danilo?
So, what have you designed recently that's made you happy?
My life, man. Like,
the reason I asked this question is because this whole, and this is wonderful. I really enjoy it. The framework, the process, all the challenges. It was really meaty. But I was looking at it like a map, and now I'm asking in terms of the destination.
I'll answer.
I'm being actually very authentic and saying, what did you do this week?
And I'm
really happy.
Yeah, I'm giving like the most solid answer that I could give, right? I'm dead serious when I say where I design my life, right?
Can I answer after you answer?
Yeah, for sure. I go very meta and philosophical, but it's
because I want to give you a tangible.
But it's really practical, right? So my goal is happiness. So my goal for a company is happiness, for myself is happiness, and the happiness of the employees that work with us. And there's a lot of opportunities throughout the week to be able to seize happiness for them, whether it's implementing new processes in the work that we do, whether it's accommodating them in a certain way, whether it's bringing in a very specific client. That's an opportunity for me to be able to seize. And I have to alleviate a lot of different risks, right? The risks themselves are them maybe being unhappy, or me creating a situation or a process at our company that causes anxiety that makes me unhappy, because that risk bubbles up to the goal of, overall happiness for ourselves and our company. And then it bubbles up to the very high level goal of business success, because we're not in the business only of making us happy, we're in the business of making money. And if we don't seize these opportunities, and if we don't alleviate those risks, I'm going to have an unhappy team, I'm going to have anxiety, our cadence will slow down, and we'll be able to not be able to reach those goals that scaffold up. And so, I mean, if you look at that approach, just of being able to highlight the most important opportunity and the most important risk, and the goal that it bubbles up to, and the overall goal. That's a very practical thing that I live by day and week by week. And through that cadence, like for example, DC started a year and a half ago or a year ago, we're able to build business success by doing concerted, focused efforts throughout the week, not on features or team growth specifically, but finding the root problem and alleviating all the symptoms that Lailee's talking about, through the opportunities and risks and all that jazz. So that's from a business perspective or operational perspective, I guess. Lailee, do you want to give a
Should we
practical?
go to the next question, or if you're happy
that
with
good?
the answer, or I could go
No,
more
maybe your
tangible?
answer, because I think the two.
There you go. Your answer.
Well, apart from the products that we make that go through all of that process, the process itself was designed by this process. So if you think about this framework as a product, my job the last, how many
It's been 3 months.
3, 4 months?
4 months.
Almost, has been to go through this process and design this one thing. So I had a wicked problem. We have this team and we have all these problems. How are we going to collaborate, alleviate risks, and seize opportunity? How are we going to do that? My job was to go through this process and create that framework.
And so the framework at the very top that Lailee showed, this guy right here,
Yeah.
so that's a product that's a result of that, because we needed tangible steps along the way to be able to unify our team around the same conversation and align ourselves on something.
And really how it works is that every time we have a product, we go through this, we share it with our stakeholders, with our internal team, and everyone drops in comments. This is where we gather feedback, and it gets iterated as we move forward until
So like clients fill in opportunities and risks.
they're
not just
always
us. Why do
involved.
we have to,
Users,
right?
clients, always involved in the process. So they know exactly why we made a design decision.
And like a really, really basic thing, I want to create a login form for my app, because that's a cool thing to do, right? So you know what? Users need to log in successfully, and there's a story for that, right? And then they need to find a login button. They need to be able to hit it clearly, and then it needs to take them to the right place. If you think about it, if you really dig deep into that, there is a lot of opportunities that you could seize by making things clear. And there's a lot of risks that when you hit it, it doesn't take them to where you want to go. You might have created a login button, but it didn't take them to the right place. So even in product design, well, we primarily use this for product design. It's that granular for feature design,
Or
right?
even something as a simpler example as something like a banner, right? We had a project where we had to, one of the risks was not to overwhelm users because they're so conscious of their ideas and they don't want to get involved with your project, with your product. So that's one of the risks, and how we translated that into a product was, okay, so what is the type of language that we can use in the banner that is inviting so that it doesn't
Both the
do
alpha
that.
and the omega, man.
I know, that's why I
Yes.
said I want to.
That's why we're here. So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Is that time?
That's that.
That's time. Thank you,
Right.
guys.
Thank you.